Greetings, welcome back, and happy patch week, denizens of the Nexus. This is Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, here as always with Kyle Fergusson. We have so much to discuss today, dude.
Do we just dive in then?
Yeah. I mean, we got it. Okay. So before we get started, as always, thank you to our patrons. You know we love you. You listening to the sound of my voice, you know you can go to patreon.com/ITN. You know that despite iTunes reviews that we're not paid by Blizzard, you know that you can give $1 or more, whatever you decide, and support this here program. And some folks said that we want to thank, before we get into the meat of today, thank you to Brandon, thank you to Mango Reaper, probably my favorite name in a very long time. I have a mango tree in the backyard. I absolutely cannot stand its existence. It just drops bad tasting mangoes on the ground and they rot. Oh. So I could use a Mango Reaper.
Oh.
Yeah, they have terrible flavors. Yeah.
Mangoes are great.
I'm not a huge fan, but if the ones from my tree actually tasted good, I would eat them. They don't. They have like no flavor at all. Yeah.
It's like a bad apple, but people think of like rotten apples. No, like just like water mush.
Yeah, if you could imagine, apples. Being excited because they're like, this is the biggest, ripest mango I've ever seen. And then you bring it inside right away and you try and eat it. So it's just like warm wetness.
Oh, disappointment.
Yeah, it's no good. No good at all. Anyway, Brandon, Mango Reaper, thank you so much for signing up in the last week and becoming a patron. Also, shout out to Vortigaunt, who's been a patron for a long, long time, but this week doubled their pledge. So thank you, Vortigaunt.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, just want to give you a little extra shout out. I can see when that happens. A little harder to track down if I don't see when it happens, but yeah. Anyway, I saw it, made a note, just wanted to give you a thanks. You get access to our Discord, ad-free version of the podcast, and you get to join us for our monthly game nights, which we're doing tonight. We call them the Patron Bonanzas, and they are truly bonanzas. And so is This Week in Heroes of the Storm, because we got a new patch, so let's get right into it.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Put me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
We got a new patch. Came in on September 27th on Monday, which is starting to just feel like the patch day, but I think you and I are both in agreement that it also just kind of feels like they're trying to get them in before the weekend, and it just hasn't happened the last couple of times.
Yeah, this was pretty fresh on Monday, so I'd say just couldn't get it into that last bit of maybe Thursday, even Friday. So a little bit of delay there. It's an interesting patch overall. Doesn't touch the things that we're all kind of staring at in the high leagues. And when you talk about like Storm Division in NGS right now, coming up on CCL, there's some concerns. It seems like those are saved for a future date. This is more of a patch about underpicked talents and our toy that we got to play with. I do believe that we're still getting the AZ Jackson toy per patch idea is not exactly available to all.
Okay. What do you think the toy is?
I think the toy is Maiev.
Ah, yes.
And you upgrade, you mess with Kael'thas. Everyone goes and plays Kael'thas.
Yeah, so in that regard, I think we got two toys. I think Kael'thas for the rest of us and Maiev for the madness.
I think Kael'thas is more like it's such a side grade. It's not even a coat of paint. Maybe you repainted the gutters and no one really knows, but they're all kind of like, you changed something about the house? That's nice. Not sure what.
Oh, they got those, the thing I noticed because I'm domestic as hell, those seamless gutters. I've been pining after those because my gutters are looking bad.
No,
it's not a bit. This is me complaining about my actual gutters. Yeah. Anyways, lots to talk about today. So let's get straight into it by talking about, starting with tanks, of which only one, as Heroes of the Storm categorizes it, tanks, is being messed with, and that's good old E.T.C, which is basically across the board underpicked talent refreshes.
This is an interesting one. So this is going after his auto attack talents, which I loved at a time. But at that same time, I also loved auto attack Diablo because our meta allowed for these prolonged auto attack tank engages. The meta we were in was basically go engage. Everybody lives for a very long time. The tank lives long enough that auto attack heals are going to do something to sustain them back there, while basically it was weird meta. I think it's beginning of this year, maybe later. No, I think it was pre-Hogger. That would have been about this time last year. Anyway, doesn't particularly matter.
It would have had a hot second last year where ETC was like the jam again, and then very quickly disappeared.
So what happened in those engagements was ETC and the Bruiser would both dive the enemy backline and then try to live for as long as possible, where the enemy did the exact same thing. So you would trade tanks and Bruisers.
Yep,
and
front lines would become the backline divers, but it was just simultaneous. It was very hectic.
Yeah, and then you would see if you could get rid of the front line first on the other side. And because of the way the healers were working at the time, you couldn't. And it added to this really kind of low burst, but very fun tank environment. Ultimately, like many things, it got stale.
Yeah.
So we moved away from that. Now things are quite bursty. And our top healers are contributing huge amounts of damage. Stukov, not one I'm used to saying there still, but definitely Tyrande.
I mean,
and Kharazim.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a lot of the heroes that are getting messed with aren't something that's you're having to contend with in NGS. There's one big exception we're going to talk about later, which is Stukov. Stukov is, I believe, the most played healer in NGS, if not tied with Brightwing.
Yeah, not the winniest, but certainly something that nobody wants to deal with.
Has a higher win rate than Brightwing, according to Hero's Profile.
Mm-hmm. This is a augmentation first and foremost to Rockstar. So regardless of what ETC build you're doing, you're going to now know that heroics grant 60 armor for 2 seconds, which is a huge buff to your mosh pit.
Yes, it is.
You stand there. If they can't CC you, that you take damage, and they try to get rid of you as fast as possible. And 60 armor helps with that a lot.
Is it any? Why? So sell me on why you pulling out mosh pit and not stage dive, because stage dive you're showing up to a fight seems pretty good there too.
It's true. Stage dive. There are those players who use stage dive in interesting re-engage kind of ways, but normally stage dive is being used in an off-lane ETC. And I heard a really cute one yesterday from Crushinator that ETC is used to counter Dahaka, and it's coming back in because Dahaka is such a burden to everybody right now. ETC basically runs around in circles, following Dahaka everywhere, and just being frustrating because ETC can knock back Dahaka's dig. So anytime Dahaka tries to join a team fight globally, you put him on that full 8-second global cooldown, and you then stage dive before the Dahaka could actually get there, in hopes that by the time that 8 seconds passes, Dahaka's already lost his point of going down.
That seems tedious.
Yes, and Dahaka would also have like movement speed through a bush and like run away from you, and it'd probably be difficult to catch up to him. I guess you could do speed metal, which also got an upgrade this week from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds to maintain your edge and chase that Dahaka. You're both going to be losing XP at that point as you both weave in and out of lane trying to avoid each other. It does get stupid. It absolutely is. But that's the level we're dealing with on Dahaka right now. You have to fight his raw power with stupidity.
That's
I'm not gonna,
that's fair.
I'm not going to call his power stupid. I think it's a really good character design. I think that it's overtuned at the moment, or maybe it just works too well in our current iteration of this meta.
Well, then can I take stupid and apply it to Junkrat, who also didn't get nerfed?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Junkrat is stupid right now.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, it's dumb, and I think a word I don't use often, I think it's degenerate.
I don't know about degenerate.
Trap is the most degenerate thing that's ever happened to this game.
What I don't want to say, I don't want to build a table of stupidity, because I do think that Dahaka and Junkrat were more stupid than Brightwing being overtuned in any regard. But stupidity is not the right word there. It's just that Brightwing was on top, and globals are very, very powerful in the high-end leagues, and Brightwing should have some weaknesses. Those weaknesses weren't being felt again, so we had to tune her down.
I think that's what I'm coming away with, like, without getting too far ahead, but E.T.C is a good time to kind of have this conversation because of stage dive, is that I think what I'm seeing in this patch is kind of the admission of just what a razor's edge it is balancing heroes that have globals.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult, right? It's quite difficult. Like E.T.C doesn't bring the survivability that other tanks bring, but has that global and stage dive that you're talking about. And focusing in on the fact that he tends to stage dive early much more often than he does stage dive and immediately start fighting, this change to Rockstar isn't as big of a boon.
Well, and the developer comments entirely based on this, so we can assume that this is the main part of the ETC they're working on, and the other things are underpicked talents, as you said. ETC's strength has usually been centered around his powerful heroics, but lately they haven't been helping him make the cut. We're trying to reinforce that identity with baseline armor and a buff to stage dive before we look at broader power. And that buff to stage dive is a mana cost reduction and a slow duration increase by 1 second, now 4 seconds.
I do like stage dive, but I agree with what you pointed out about this Rockstar change.
Stage dive slows by 50%. It can be super powerful. There's some wicked stuff you can do with those resets at 20. I don't think we can go auto attack ETC right now as main tank, maybe off lane, but there's still that big off lane problem, which is Echo Petals all the way at 7. And they went and increased the damage of it flat, but reduced the PvE damage from 250% to 200%. Which says to me they want people to pick this when they're not lane clearing. They want it to be an AoE Bernie sort of effect, like maybe your Muradin's have and such. That's a tall order.
I mean, it's still at 7, as you pointed out. Like, it's nice that it's getting a buff, but it's still coming online late.
Right. And
like, if I was a bargaining man, I would say, don't buff it, give it to me at 4.
And that's up against Pinball Wizard. And our sticky talent is Hammer On, because then your basic attack damage is increased, which is going to increase your overall healing because all those auto attack talents flow into each other.
And that damage bonus was increased in this patch as well.
Yeah. So it's competing with itself in the I'm going to stick to you and like sit inside the team sort of aspect. If you're stunned, you're stunned. You can't auto attack. You're not going to cast spells and you won't have Echo Pedal either. And if you're casting spells, then Pinball Wizard's probably the one for you. So I appreciate the buffs 100%. I don't think that ETC is going to benefit from these particular buffs because CC will always be the counter to Mosh Pit, and Stage Dive is already so weird that I don't think people target you in the first 2 seconds.
Well, it entirely depends on when you show up too. Like, are you showing up before the fight even begins? There's no chance for them to target you.
Yeah. You get there on time in that instance, on time in air quotes, and you get no armor. You show up a little late and now you're in the back line, but that's usually when they're running away and they're inhibited by the slow, so they're not targeting you. So I do not have a proper answer as to get how you can get ETC back in this game in that regard. So I'm curious to see where they go from here.
A little weird. He is up 2% on HOTS logs. Now, granted, we haven't had... It's been 3 days. So take any statistics with a major grain of salt. But I did take a look at what the 3-day trajectory for every single hero that got changed has been. Made notes of them here in the show notes. And ETC is at least seeming to get a little bit of a bump with the stats available to us.
I would like to see Speed Metal and Echo Pedal swapped out. So Echo Pedal moved forward to 4. And Speed Metal available to verse Pinball Wizard and Hammer On.
I like that a lot. Times 2.
Just everyone pick lane clear? I don't know.
Yep.
Moving on.
Speaking of lane clear, let's get into bruisers and talk Gazlowe, who's getting nerfed. Quite a few nerfs, actually. According to the dev comments, Gazlowe is, quote, a pretty dominant force in all non-masters levels of play right now. So they're reducing his health by just over 4%, reducing the damage of Rocket Turret by just over 5%, and reducing the damage of Death Laser by just under 3%. So Rocket Turret getting a sizable ding, Gazlowe's going to be a little easier to kill. And while Death Laser's damage isn't too bad, also it's important to remember like he heals off of that. So there's a little bit more to it than that. I haven't been playing a ton of Gazlowe, so I feel like I'm not as biased as I usually am coming into a Bruiser nerf, but this feels a little much to me.
I don't think it's enough. But then again,
Really?
you can't nerf him more.
Okay,
because,
hit me. Why don't you think it's enough?
So I last week during my awful time. This week I had a much better time in store.
Oh my god! Anyone listening, if you missed last week's episode, if you want to hear probably the saltiest I've ever heard Kyle be on a single episode of this podcast, go listen to episode 392 of Into the Nexus. Kyle had a rough week.
I had so much fun this week. The teams were really dynamic and absolutely wild, and Dahaka was first banned in a lot of them, so I didn't have to deal with that. Last week, Dahaka was Outbreak Town, and I don't necessarily play Dahaka, and when I did pick it, I lost. So I was just in a horrible space. Anyway, during that week of horribleness, my crusade of horrible, I tried out Gazlowe, because I'm like, look at this win rate. Isn't this amazing? I'm in Masters. Surely this holds up. No. Because so much of Gazlowe's power is in this baity, run around, noisy style, in which Dahaka says, I'm baity, noisy, and run around style, and completely destroys you. And by the time he gets you low, you're like, okay, I've made a mistake. I need to run. That's when you have to go through a choke and the tongue actually hits. The drag hits.
So why are you coming from my boy Gazlowe? Why are you doing my boy Gazlowe like this?
So first of all, one of the things we can immediately see from stats is that in a rare case, Gazlowe's highest win rate talent build is his highest pick rate. And that's normally not the case. There's usually some outliers that you see, like a Superstition Nazeebo sitting on top, and you're like, oh yeah, Nazeebo found himself in a situation, first double major something versus poke, and he said, great, I get to go Superstition. I'm going to be super powerful here. I'm loving this. For Gazlowe, we're basically seeing across the board with a little variance at 13 for superior schematics and overcharged capacitors that Gazlowe's are doing rocket boots, hyperfocus coils, master blaster. And the thing about hyperfocus coils, or really any Gazlowe build at 4, is that it's very baity. You are going to rocket socket, drop shields. You're going to be healing off these lasers, both of which are interruptible, in a sense, but not necessarily going to be the target of ire, particularly in those lower leagues. Right. You're not going to be zoning Gazlowe. So the noise is huge. The objective clear is decent for unskilled play. We're not talking managing the heavy cooldowns like Diva has. And I've now seen how you're supposed to do clears with Kael'thas in one of my more recent Infernal Shrines reviews with Porky on the Hero's Hearth. But that takes a lot of focus. Like in that sort of style, you're saying, how do I empower my abilities? Are there enough skeletons that I want to make it big? Are there too few skeletons? I'm going to make it small, and I'll do other sorts of styles. Like there's really active ways to get rid of Infernal Shrine's pit that are way more efficient than Gazlowe. But you run in there in Gazlowe and just start and then hitting all your buttons, it's going to go fine for you. And it's going to work out pretty well if everything's pretty uncoordinated. So they're going after his base kit here, which will knock him down in low leagues. I think that we're entering a problem period of just rough talents for Gazlowe. We've got things like easy piece of Dimensional Ripper, 2% pick rate, one-man Wrecking Crew, 4% pick rate, positive reinforcement, 10% pick rate. There's some stinkers in here.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. Like a couple of things. First, one, challenge you on saying everyone's going the same build. You mentioned Master Blaster. It's literally the least picked talent. So level 7 actually has quite good talent diversity. But at nearly every other level, not so much the case.
Did I say Master Blaster? I was talking about hyperfocus coils, excuse me.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, you said hyperfocus and then you went to Master Blaster. Overload is actually the number 1 pick at 7, not Master Blaster. However, at 7, we have a pretty decent spread between all 3 options at level 7. But I think there's 2 other things at play here. One is, as the devs pointed out, their concern is with non-Masters levels of play.
Right.
I think you're much more prone to see pretty rigid build orders outside of Masters. And the other is Gazlowe is one of these bruisers that got a major rework and launched extremely strong. And we were seeing really good build diversity. And they've already nerfed the crap out of a lot of these. And so we haven't been left with much. And what we have been left with are the talents you're seeing everyone take. And so now, like, we there used to be a pretty big spread between Big Game Hunter and Rocket Boots. There still is a little bit. Big Game Hunter comes in second place, but Rocket Boots more than doubles how much it's picked. And the same happened at a lot of the different levels for Gazlowe. Like his level 13s, for example. Like some people are still going overcharge capacitor, but Superior to Schematics has come out the winner post adjustments and nerfs.
Gazlowe is a lot like Thrall. And he has in Masters League very, very limited places where he can be plugged in. And if you ask anybody, I love playing Thrall. So oftentimes if I have a Grandmaster player in my chat or something like that, I'll be like, hey, when can I go Thrall? And they're like, oh, no, you only 4-man Thrall. Or only in these extreme situations where you have like two-man rotates and you're visited all the time. They're asinine. You'll never do these things naturally. You just want to pick Thrall for the soloing because he's fun to play, particularly because he brings so much team fight later on. Well, don't worry about that when you can put him in the 4-man. Now you bring team fight all the time. Never run him solo. Very disappointing. I'm disappointed. I think we should all be disappointed by that fact. Gazlowe is very much like Thrall in that way. There is this build that exists that makes him soloable, which is what we're seeing here. And in low leagues, if you just have a solo lane that's being efficient, well, hot damn, it's going to work out.
Yeah,
okay.
You're ahead of the curve at that point
Exactly.
in a lot of games. Speaking generally, of course.
And then you bring Gravel Bomb to the party. And now you've got like that Thrall situation. Hey, I showed up, everybody. Everyone's like, welcome, Gazlowe. Good to see you. Glad you made it. Drop something. That's
Here
great.
comes the combo. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what you want out
of
your offlaner, right? Like Thrall can bring it with the Sunder or the Earthquake. Gazlowe can bring it with the Gravel Bomb. Malthael can bring it with Last Rites. Definitely not the other one. So these you want them to be able to handle themselves and then show up, contribute, and leave again.
So my request, very much like my request for Thrall here, is I think that's okay. I think it's okay to have something that works in the 4-man. And what I'm getting here with Gazlowe is an amazing giant killer build. A stupid, huge giant killer build. You got that hyper-focused coils at 4, 2% max health damage. You got stuff like overclock. Basic attacks grant Gazlowe 50% movement or 15% movement speed. Dealing basic attack damage to heroes causes them to take 2.5% of their max health as damage. Robogoblin, dealing that damage over time. There's a really cool giant killer build in here that could exist in like a Gazlowe 4-man. I want to see that cleaned up and encouraged, and I want to see these other talents taken down. And that would be this easier build, which has elements of this, but is a lot more spammy. And my number one request here to fix Gazlowe is give him 2 charges of Robogoblin. Because when Gazlowe came out, it was during the Gladiator's Medallion. And melee Gazlowe was pretty damn good. Because I had an extra yes forever cooldown button. I think it was 300 seconds. But I had another button, Unstoppable, so I could get a full 3 seconds of Unstoppable to do my business.
Interesting thought. I haven't thought about Gladiator's Medallion in a long time.
No, we don't want to think about it.
You are not wrong.
But if I had 2 charges of Unstoppable for 1.5 seconds, I could get some weird stuff done on my Gazlowe melee build on a Robogoblin area. And I would frankly really enjoy that.
That would be such I'm telling you right now, though, that would be such an upset that I think they would have to make those changes and intentionally overtune it so that we as a community do not tilt when we see Gazlowe doing this build when it first lands.
That's true.
I think we need to. Yeah, I think you have to intentionally overtune it and then bring it back. Go like, hey, look how fun it is. Okay, now we're gonna reel it in.
And maybe it's just that Gravel Bomb doesn't work against Masters League players, so buffing Robogoblin would just mean we're just avoiding that problem in the first place, and that design feature never really gets fixed up. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Pyroblast owning quick match players who have never played before because, hey, lots of damage flying at you. What am I going to do about it? All these options, but they're team-based, right? Like someone standing in front of the Nova bolts for you.
Yeah.
You have to know. You have to be in the know.
Mm-hmm. Well, you spend a lot of time talking about Thrall. Let's actually talk about how Thrall is changing, because it looks like, again, actually, I chalked this up in my notes to being a light rework.
Okay.
We only got one base level change, and it was just a mana cost reduction on Feral Spirit. But like, we got a level 13 rework, we got a new 20, and we got an underpick talent refresh. Like, this seems like a very, very, like, the most diet rework, but still, I think, starts to blend into that world, because we're getting changed functionality at 13 on Frostwolf's Grace. We're getting a new level 20. I almost said at level 20. I already said level 20, so I throw to you.
New level 20 and level 20. It happens. It happens. I don't think this has fixed that fundamental issue with Thrall, is that he's too weak in the solo lane, but he's really powerful once the team fight comes on, and people don't want to take that chance. I don't think he's overexposed. I do think that Echo of Elements is a really cool way to basically say, you're going to win this lane, I'll give it to you, but I'm going to stack something useful for later. Echo of Elements being the one where you get 2 charges of Chain Lightning. I also wondered...
Does he need something like Die Alone? Like Malthael?
That's an interesting thought. What level is Die Alone for Malthael?
4?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna also go look it up real quick.
Okay.
So, do we need something like that for Lightning? Because you just get no real Lightning value as far as, hero damage in the solo lane. Like, do you write something where if Lightning hits one hero and then nothing else but minions, like, the hero damage is amplified or something?
I know. I'm trying to think of a situation, just because it's so in the forefront of my mind, that doesn't involve Dahaka. Because Dahaka is like saying, "What? I'm going to take Disney to court over this." Like, just don't. It's ridiculous. Don't. Don't poke that bear.
Are you talking about? Was it Steve Ditko's his family suing Disney? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I don't even have a modern example in mind here. But it's more like, a small, let's say a small successful YouTuber used clips of a Disney video, and Disney takes down their video and they say, "I'm suing Disney." Like, that's what Thrall versus Dahaka feels like. Yes, you're gonna do Rolling Thunder at 1, which gives you a 3% giant killer. You shock Dahaka, you go smack him, 3% giant killer. And maybe Disney pays out some essence, but ultimately did not care at all about what you just did. And I don't think that this buff changes that. The Echo of Elements mana reduction is nice. I'll be able to stay around longer. I do cast a lot as the game goes on, but usually mana issues start fading away. So this is helpful. What I'm really curious about here is things like Feral Resilience, as more of a what's going on with block kind of way. Like, is it that hard of a sale? You were literally packaged. You're watching an infomercial and they keep saying, "and our free gift to you," and there's more gifts, and you're like, well, what's wrong with the original gift? Or what's wrong with the egg cutter, the dicer, whatever the hell it is? What's wrong with these knives? Why am I getting free scissors with it?
I would like to know what's wrong with you. How are you even seeing infomercials?
I watched a lot when I was younger. I didn't have cable. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm pulling on old knowledge. I assume they're still there, but I'm actually not sure. Anyway, I watch YouTube like the rest of us. Feral Resistance now stacks to 4 times. They're just throwing block talents at us, just going like, take block. Oh my god, take block. Heroes damaged by Feral Spirit grant 4 stacks of Frostwolf Resilience and 2 stacks of Feral Resilience, granting 75 physical armor against the next heroic basic attack. This does not have a duration, which every time, of course, we talk about block, we return to our Church of Arthas and we say, Why rhyme? Are you based on a time duration of 5 seconds until I get a stack? I would like to have that based on things I do. All the same, doesn't fade away. It's fine. This block talent is getting rather ridiculous at the moment.
It's a little convoluted. It reads like a lengthy magic card.
Yeah, it's true. It's plus the two things being both called Frostwolf are getting a little confusing. But understand, one is like your stacks that you are building that give you healing and stuff, and maybe mana depending on what talent you go. You wouldn't get that here. And then you are getting the resilience. You're getting Frostwolf resilience is the stacking stuff on his trait. Feral resilience is his 75 armor against next basic attack, a block talent. It's getting incredible. It's true. But I don't know how we're fixing this solo lane situation with that.
We're getting a note in the chat that feral resilience buffs will continue until every player picks it.
And that is interesting because look at what happened with Muradin. Muradin is a leap bot who leaps in his own base to get stacks of block. And Muradin should only be taken in situations where block is needed versus Hanzo and stuff, where you're going to kill the thing that would be hitting you in the first place by getting in its face. That's really cool. I'm glad Muradin has this really high-end plug-and-play place. Frostwolf's Grace at 13 got an interesting buff. Originally, it was Frostwolf Resilience can be activated to heal 150% of its normal amount. This normal amount was 371 at 13. It is now changed to activate to instantly heal 371, not 17. This heal is increased by 100% based on Thrall's missing health. So it got better as the go-to pick talent, right?
Frostwolf's Grace at 13, yes.
Yeah.
This is by far the most popular pick according to the things we can look at, which is sites like HOTS logs. Don't have Thrall up at the moment, but I checked right before the show, and it's sitting at a 63% pick rate. So Frostwolf's Grace is the talent that the majority of Thralls prefer. And it's getting this updated functionality.
And then Spirit Shield now lasts a full second longer than Lunara's Spell Shield does. So there's a lot going for Thrall. What I'm saying is I'm not complaining about Thrall, and I think these buffs are rather meaningful, in fact. I just don't know where he's off to.
I mean, our chat room seems pretty fixated on him just having pretty weak wave clear, and that this not interfering with that in any way kind of makes it a non-starter.
That's an interesting thought.
I don't think they're wrong. I don't think of Thrall as having particularly great lane clear.
I mean, a lot of the counterplay in so many situations when it comes to the Bruiser matchup is to say who has better lane clear. I will clear them first, then I'll get a minion collapse, and then we can actually duel. That is the number one way you fight Artanis, for instance. So if we gave him a lane clear talent, such as I think a great using these marks like we have for Rolling Thunder, would be to every time you hit somebody who has a lightning mark upon them, they do a little poof in the area around them for some sort of AoE damage. Because Thrall does, Echo of Elements is kind of your, oh, whoa, you're going to outpush me, but I'll see you later and I'll bring it back at you. But then you end up solo clear lane clearing and you go, huh, shock, whoa. And it's kind of disappointing. Granted, in a lot of cases for me, when I play, it's Ancestral Wrath. So I'm also using like Feral Spirit to lane clear because each one of those is a Frostwolf Resilience stack that's adding to me getting my giant killer thing. So it's this whole loud noise that kind of works back into itself. Oh gosh, I have to lane clear. This is going to be really awful, but at least I'll show up with all my tools available. Kind of like Illidan in that way. Illidan's off farting, taking forever doing that camp, but at least you know he has the hunt.
And he will also leave that camp with a good amount of his health, as opposed to other slow camp takers that leave barely alive.
Very true.
So I guess you consider an intact health pool part of the tools that he arrives with.
This is not me. By the way, this is not me just like horribly upset. Is the word lambasting? I've heard it. I've never said it.
I don't think you are. I know you've always had a little bit of you carry a bit of a flame for Thrall.
I do.
I know you. I know you've got it's an old flame of yours. You want him to be good again. This is subtle. This is subtle. It's I don't look at any of this and go, ooh, the reign of Thrall begins.
And I don't think that should. He's got really powerful team fight. Mainly, I'm taking issue with just the fact that the statement started with struggles in the solo new matchup, and I went, yes. And then it goes on about other things. And then this new level 20 is very interesting from like just a dev perspective. So
it's called elemental momentum. In case anyone listening on podcast hasn't looked this up, and the way it works is that basic attacks reduce basic and heroic ability cooldowns by a quarter second, and that amount is doubled against heroes. So you're getting a half second cooldown reduction on everything if you're smacking heroes.
So what it sounded like happened across, this statement here and a little bit on Reddit, basically they looked at people picking Nexus blades all the time and said, weird. Do you not want these amazing upgrades like Earthen Shield? Earthbreaker's a little weird, but Wind Rush and stuff like that. Why are so many people going Nexus blades? It must be that Thrall's really, really like auto attacking. So let's give them another option that might actually play into their spellcaster builds. Because a lot of time, if you do this Echo of Elements thing into things like Thunderstorm, you're running around in circles almost as a casters with cooldown. And then you rarely do heavy engages because it's just too dangerous to go in there. So elemental momentum, the fact that you could cast. I love this build against like Tracers and Genjis, just so I can right click them. It's shocking them, Li Mings. It's a great way to have poke as Thrall. And hitting Diablo a few times, then being like, this is for you, Tracer. That's for you, Li Ming, is a really, really fun idea.
So it's like a static charge. You're building up on what you can, the Diablo in this case, and then you're throwing off your abilities at the squishies.
And I love it. And I really do love this talent. It's a very cool idea. I think you could bake these two together. It's kind of weird to me having Nexus Blades and elemental momentum, but I totally get totally different builds. What really interests me though is momentum was taken away from Thrall because it was way too much back in the day.
What was it on 20 though?
No, that was his battle momentum. Talent was removed back in 2015 because it was an issue. Granted, I believe that was a level 7 talent.
Yeah, it was also, we were getting rid of generic talents as well. However, plenty of heroes kept customized battle momentums, and here we are, Thrall getting it back. But again, this is level 20.
But this is a deep throwback. Like we're 2015, and you revive a talent level 20. I think that's awesome. I think that's some great archaeology of the storm.
I like that. When we do our HOTS history podcast, that's what we'll call it.
What didn't World of Warcraft basically have to hire historians for their own lore after Chris Metzen left?
Oh, did they? I don't know.
Yeah, they basically they had to hire from the community to basically, does anyone know what's going on? I'm not trashing on it either. I literally one of your main.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah. No, I know exactly. Yes, they have people who are like experts on the game lore. I thought you were saying they hired actual historians to help them craft future lore.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Which I guess would also kind of work depending on what you're going for, thematically speaking. We're getting lost in the weeds here. Anyways,
so clearly I'm a mixed bag on Thrall. I was seduced by an initial sentence and then wait, no, this isn't solo lane based at all. But this is all great, and I loved hitting my 13 button and had extra healing for me this week.
Well, his 3-day forecast is looking good.
Okay.
He's up 6%.
Okay.
Not a ton of games played. It's just a lot of margin for error. Take every again. And if I mention win rate today, grain of salt, but it's more games than I've got to look at.
I played him, it was fabulous. Where did I end up playing him? Actually I ended up playing a ton of Anduin this week. Something overcame me. I played it on Cursed Hollow. versus Arthas. Okay. Yeah.
Someone tweeted this week Anduin and WoW's model versus HOTS model and said that the HOTS model just makes so much more sense and so much more faithful to the character, and it really captures the fact that he's still a priest, whereas his model in WoW, he just looks like he's been taking steroids for 10 years. And I hadn't really thought about it, but they're dead on. Like his HOTS model, like it is priestly.
Anduin is absolute blast to play in this game. I only avoid him for so long because there were so many other healers to play, and I played Stukov. And now that he's in the big bands, I'm just loving Anduin. I love his little walk and his "let's get you out of here," and just like he's always nervous and running around and throwing your star out. It's fun.
I'm finally starting to warm up to him in HOTS. When he hit, I was just like, not at all what I'm interested in. But he's got a great kit. He really does.
Yeah.
But let's move on and talk about the only support hero getting switched up, which is Zarya. Getting an underpicked talent refresh, but also a buff to her like runaway most picked ultimate, or heroic as we like to call him here, Graviton Surge. It now deals damage, which is a big deal. It never used to. It's now doing 30 damage a second to affected enemies.
Yeah, and 1 billion% more damage. Actually, that wouldn't work either. Like this is just damage when there was none. It's cool. It's cool. What I really like about this is that they removed a underpicked level 7 talent to the limit and baked it in to a level 1. Basically taking the auto attack build and saying just have it at 1 if that's where you're going.
Yeah. Both level 7s that were removed hit me and to the limit. As you said, to the limit being baked in at 1. Basically, no one took these talents. They were very underpicked.
There was a weird time in the past when auto attack Zarya was a thing, and this isn't why she's drafted anymore. And that was also a bruisery time for Zarya, less so a support time.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of Zarya this week as a result.
Yeah.
Seems to be effective. I've been having some trouble against Zaryas. How much of that is just I'm not used to playing against them? I don't know. But in the last 3 days, her win rate is up quite a bit. Previously, she was the 3rd worst hero on HOTS logs.
Wow.
Yeah. 3rd from the bottom on HOTS logs. And at least in these first 3 days, climbed her way back up to a 50% win rate. She was way below that before on HOTS logs. But again, it's early. We'll see where everything kind of shakes out in the long term.
Yeah, what a tough hero to balance for. Not only are you dealing with shields, of course, which we heard forever what a problem that was for things like Tassadar and any sort of high league play. At least she's mobile. Maybe that makes it easier, or melee instead of range. But Zarya also has with her traditions of comps. And when Zarya goes up, Hammer comes out. And Garrosh joins the fray. And she's going to bring with her, with popularity, weird stuff, which is really fun and partially why this week was so fresh and enjoyable. There were Hammer comps, there were Garrosh's sped boost everywhere. Like, it just made for a really, really fun dynamic field. I feel like Zarya hits the ground running, like most of our Overwatch characters do, with these awesome kits and kind of crud talents. And that's okay. It just means that the Zarya seduces the team into having all this power, and then they hit 10, and that 10 isn't as good as their enemies, and their 13 and their 16 isn't as good as their enemies, and they just can easily lead to tilted teams.
It's a good way to put it. I don't know. Zarya, and I think I've said this before, like quite a while ago, whenever the last time she came up was. It's one of those heroes that when I see someone grab her, I'm like, yes. Like, I know it's a passionate pick. I know this person probably, in most cases, has quite a few games logged because Zarya is just such a dark horse.
Agreed.
Let's move on and talk about Ana, which also got the Reddit talking, which we'll get into here in a sec. But for the most part, we're looking at an underpicked talent refresh. Not that Ana has the worst talent diversity.
No, not as such a weird story, too. One thing they're doing here, contact healing at level 1, original functionality was Bio Grenade heals for 30% more per ally and enemy hero hit. Now it deals 30% additional damage per ally and enemy hit?
Just
Wait,
per hero hit.
Yeah,
For-
okay, yeah.
It's simpler. You don't have to say ally or enemy. It's just hero. If you hit a hero, whether it's an ally or an enemy, you're getting 30%
damage
additional
is
damage.
increased.
Oh wait, no. Yeah, if it's damage, then it has to be enemies, right? You're not charging up the damage by also hitting your friends, are you?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's where I paused for a moment.
Okay,
but
yeah, never mind. No.
No, hitting
At
heroes
first, I'm
with
like, why are
biotic
you
grenade.
confused? And now I'm confused.
Yeah. Hitting heroes with Biotic Grenade increases its damage and healing by 30%. So we assume then that 5 friends, 1 enemy, the enemy is taking more damage. Because everyone hit by Biotic Grenade is increasing the damage healing.
That's how I'm reading this now. Yes.
That's kind of neat. So the weird thing about Ana is, first of all, weird people who back in 2018.
Wait, what are you saying about Ana players?
Oh no, I'm not saying they're weird. Like I don't look at them like Brightwing players.
That's what Kyle said. Podcast listeners, you heard that, right? Tweet at Kyle Fergusson. Let him know you know what he said.
The weird thing about Ana player, okay, maybe. The weird thing about the way players play Ana.
There you go.
There you go. Is that they got really excited in 2018 or so about vampiric rounds, and half of them want to heal, and the other half just want to do dynamic optics or whatever kind of weird auto attack build you do, and you're really excited about the damage on buildings that you do in the late game. And we're all looking at their heals, and they're like, nah, I'm a sniper. So what we're doing is encouraging through this buff the coming back of the full grenade build, but the full grenade build was removed because it was too easy. And they wanted Ana to have trouble, in a sense, or Ana players to be good. It's an interesting thing.
I have always looked at it as the average player misses so many of the Q heals that the balance is like when grenade's good, it makes up for that, but then it's too good for Anas that are accurate.
Right. So are we re-entering that time period? Not necessarily. This is just additional damage.
Yeah, I think that would be too bold a statement for sure.
So if anything, we're actually making Ana more of a damage dealer with this sort of talent rework, and all Ana talents, or at least level 1 talents, are going to be focused towards, if you'd like them to be more of a damage sort of thing. Slumbering Shells being a slow, you can assume a slow is going to be more damage as the team joins in on that, which is perfectly fine in this current iteration of balance where we see things like Tyrande, Khazra, and Stukov on the very top with their high damage.
I still just see Ana as the hardest of everything you just rattled off, though. If you're trying to find healers that can heal effectively and bring the damage, Ana is in that group, but I think she's bringing up the rear. I think she's last place. Like, why try harder when you can play Tyrande?
And I think the devs are with you on that. Because look at the upgrade for Debilitating Dart. Previously, 20-second cooldown, activate to fire a dart which slows enemy movement speed and reduces their damage dealt by 50% for 4 seconds. The real trouble has always been that the dart moves at a different speed than the healing dart. So it's really, you come level 4, you suddenly have to have a whole nother aiming idea going on. But it's been a fine talent. It's very powerful against things that stand still more often. Well, now they're adding an aspect to it where if you miss, you get 8 seconds off that 20 seconds. So if you suck, well, you suck a little less and you'll get it back sooner.
Doesn't that then this becomes more of a training wheel?
In a sense, like if you were already good at Debilitating Dart, you didn't get a buff. The people who suck will probably miss more often because their cooldown is now decreased, so they can miss more often. It's not the best.
It does lead to more shots taken though, which will hopefully improve your aim over time. But I've never heard you. I don't think I've ever heard you speak positively about something that we would both kind of look at as a bit of a crutch talent.
I agree. It would be way more powerful if there was now, and if it does hit, it gets X. But if it does hit, it gets this whole ability to happen in the first place. More the point being that Ana is getting easier to play across these talents, and that's a good thing in our current landscape of heroes. It's just a really weird thing when we look at the history of heroes.
Yeah, Ana, like it all comes down to the skill of landing your Qs. It is so, there is such a divide there between the great and the average. And so anytime you start trying shoring up and giving builds that relieves the necessity to land that Q, the people who can land their Q, they're going to just run away to the bank with Ana.
I agree.
It's a challenging hero. It's a challenging hero.
And in that way, I mean, you just described why this design is so smart, because the people who are great get nothing. This is a genius upgrade to Ana.
Fair, but it seemed to, ruffle some feathers, because there was an entire thread this week on the Heroes subreddit about the shortcomings of Sharpshooter. And
Sharpshooter was a level 16 talent that was upgraded. This was previously Healing Dart's healing is increased by 5% each time it heals a hero up to 50%. This bonus is reset if Healing Dart fails to hit a hero, and it now has additional functionality. Bonus healing is increased by 35% while at maximum stacks.
It would appear that certain folks on Reddit don't think that this is enough.
So what did they have to say?
Well, it's quite lengthy, but they basically said that the biggest issue, and I'm just going to quote Lucas Trask, the poster of this original post, that got a decent amount of conversation going on around it, saying that in their minds, the biggest issue is the stacking mechanic. That quote, losing your stacks mid-team fight, because you will miss at some point, is a huge heck moment that can mess up your cadence pretty badly. Kyle, did you write this? This is how you talk.
I do.
Lucas Trask is Kyle Ferguson's burner account, everybody.
Oh my God. I do call myself Tarask, and if I just put Lucas in front of it to just cover my tracks.
I don't know where Lucas came from.
I don't know either.
You're one of the biggest Star Wars haters I know. So
it would make you completely exactly. So people would this couldn't possibly be Kyle. He hates George Lucas. I don't hate Star Wars. I just have high expectations.
I'm not trying to drag you. But if you keep lying to me about Star Wars because you hate it, I will drag you. I'm just kidding. A little bit. Not really. Anyways, this got a response from Kofalt. Kofalt got in here and talked about it and said, quote, "We had a very similar discussion internally before releasing Ana's latest changes. You're right. The most direct route to making Sharpshooter competitive is to adjust its consistency. However, part of what makes Sharpshooter unique is its inconsistency and the struggle involved. So we're first trying leaning further into its core fantasy. May not work, but there's always the next patch." And then goes on to kind of further explain why they took the approach they did with the change to debilitating dart.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of that. I think that it sucks when you miss, but that's just Ana. I mean, the core fantasy of Ana is that it sucks when you miss. So talents
that's kind of where I exist. I also don't have a dog in the race, horse in the race. I don't know. Pick a race and pick your thing. I don't play Ana, but I find her fascinating. I think you know what you're signing up for. I don't think anyone that picks Ana on the regular is surprised when they get into a game and it's oh crap, I have to be accurate. You know what you're getting yourself into if it's not your first game. And so I like that. I agree with Kofalt here. Although Kofalt, it seems like Kofat's bringing up, but the reason he brings up debilitating dart is it's the opposite side of the coin, right? It's fantasy, as Kofalt put it, is not rooted in its inconsistency. But at the end of the day, it's I don't know. If the goal were to simply make Ana more welcoming, there's all kinds of things we could do. But I don't know if that's the goal. It's certainly not where I want to see the hero go. I'd like to see her still be kind of this niche pick that is not niche because of comp or not niche because of Battleground, but niche because of the type of player you have to be to excel with her.
Yeah. With the amount of heroes we have in the game, I don't think we need an easy to play Ana build. So I'm with you there.
Agreed.
But though there's a lot of cool like ideas, right? Like Junkrat has the whenever he gets stunned, he drops a bunch of bombs. Like, you know, Ana gets scared, grenades fall from pocket. Like, it would be cool. And I would just go all those talents if I was ever forced to pick Ana, and I'd never become a great Ana. So play something else.
Yeah. All right. Time to get to my own personal heartbreak.
Okay.
Brightwing. Brightwing was nerfed? Question mark.
Okay. Right?
This
she
is
was right.
This is an interesting mixed bag. And I'm not sure how heartbroken I am. Played a little bit of Brightwing. Haven't been doing great, but I don't have nearly enough games under my belt to say that it's a direct result of the nerfs that Brightwing received. So, according to the devs, Brightwing overperforming, so they're bringing her down a notch. Health has been reduced by just under 2%. It's an extremely minor health reduction. We're literally going down 25 health points. And then Soothing Mist is having its heal amount reduced. It equates out to be just over 4% reduction. So, Soothing Mist, it wasn't already a huge heal, so I don't really notice it. To be completely honest, what I find interesting is that Soothing Mist activatable was buffed. It got a ton of time shaved off of it. It used to be a 90-second cooldown. It is now a 75-second cooldown. And maybe you're a new Brightwing out there, or no judgment, maybe you've been playing Brightwing a long time and never really taken the time to read what your trait does. It's incredible. Activating Soothing Mist removes all stuns, root slows, and silence effects. That is wildly powerful, and you get to do it almost 17% more often.
I'm not really sure what to make of this myself, but it's for different reasons. So by any sort of encouraging or buffing of Soothing Mist, you do encourage a whole different build, which can be quite powerful and was starting to see a heyday around the time of the Malfurion Sleepy Roots. Emerald Dream there, because when the root ended, you would go to sleep, kind of canceled this out. But what was happening was there was this build developing for Brightwing where you would use Magic Spit at 4 to increase your basic attack range. Basic attacks against heroes reduce the cooldown of Soothing Mist. Then you would take Critical Mist at 7. Allies heal for 165 when they're hit by Soothing Mist. Increase this healing by 140% if Soothing Mist removes a disabling effect. So you basically run around as this like auto attacker, Tyrande sort of style thing, trying to get as many Soothing Mist heals as possible. And you actually wanted your team to maybe stand in a route and take these lesser CCs so that you could increase your healing throughput. And it made a slightly more aggressive Brightwing who did slightly more damage. It's crazy that Brightwing climbed on top because of her globals. She's always a feature in our Storm League Division games. But her damage is still so low. Like, it's not uncommon to see 100,000 Brightwing healing, but 20,000 damage. Compared to the Tyrandas who are, they're like at 80,000, but that damage is actually pretty rocking and a pretty big contribution.
Yeah, it's weird too, because Brightwing's basic attack hits harder than Tyrande, and I believe, as I pull this up in the background, Brightwing's attack speed is slightly faster than Tyranda's. But where Tyrande brings damage is from her Sentinel. And it's a chonker. If you go Sentinel build right now, it hits like a truck.
So I think you're right to call it a buff because these nerfs are so minor.
They are quite minor.
Numbers-wise.
Now, again, in the last 3 days, she has fallen a decent amount. But again, still early. We'll see where things kind of level out. But I think if we were to grab onto what you talked about, doing this like Magic Spit, Critical Mist, just constantly be activating your Soothing Mist as much as you possibly can kind of a build, I don't think they're truly trying to get us to go down that road? Because if they are, I think they would increase her basic attack damage.
Maybe.
Because of what you bring up. I agree with you. I think Toronto's the next hotness, by the way. I think Toronto's in a really, really good position right now to kind of step up to be like a premier healer. Because I think of the premium we're looking for on damage in our healing heroes, which is something that Brightwing lacks horribly, as you pointed out. So it's where I'd like to see Brightwing go. I still don't think, because of the easier execution on Brightwing, I don't think her damage should rival that of Toronto's, but I also don't think it should trail as far behind as it currently does.
I agree. I wonder how much of this is psychology. Like, great Brightwing players said, a nerf, I'm gone. And the win rate only dropped because they're not playing Brightwing at the moment.
Maybe. I'm going to still keep playing her for right now. This is not an abandoned fairy ship for me. So. All right. Li Li, into the Nexus effects change once again, Kyle.
Wait, no. We covered the blue mentioning they were going to do something about it.
No, you can thank us. Because
Okay.
we covered it on the show and said this is a good idea. Please make it happen. It's our fault. We did this.
Healing Brew and Blinding Winds have their missile speed increased by 20%.
Yeah. I haven't taken Li Li out of the garage yet since the patch, but I played with quite a few Li Lis. This feels so much crispier. Like, watching those heals come out and land, so much better. So much better.
Surprised that they buffed Let's Go. The premier reason to take Li Li is the best unstoppable in the game.
You're not wrong.
But, the good stuff is popular.
She has not been doing well. I believe pre-patch, she was the 10th worst hero on HOTS logs. And it wasn't that long ago that she was doing really well. But she got nerfed pretty quickly after she got buffed, and it was effective, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, increase what makes her get drafted in the first place. Not a bad idea.
Yeah. I guess I should have said, to say the least.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. I don't apologize for that. All right. And here's Stukov. Mentioned this earlier when you were talking about how most of these changes are not affecting heroes that we're seeing a lot of competitive play, but Stukov is a hero that we see a lot of in competitive play. And I'm chalking this up to a nerf and an underpick talent refresh. What say you?
It's very complicated. There are a lot of words here, but Stukov's also doing a ton at once. All his abilities have many words on them and then are activated by another button that has more words upon it. So there's no way to nerf Stukov in his current iteration without using more words. So
they kind of came after reactive ballistic force. I think is a simple place to start.
Right, and a lot of people wouldn't be happy unless this was nuked from orbit, which it hasn't been. The search range of the talent activation has been reduced by 20%. Bio kill switch cooldown reduction while below 50% health reduced from 150% to 100%. Cooldown increased from 60 to 75. When you hit this correctly, it is still mega good, and that hasn't changed.
So win rate currently down, but again, Stukov isn't a wildly popular hero, so we don't have a ton of games logged yet over on HOTS logs. So I think it does seem, though, low blow. More folks picking that, at least in these first 3 days.
Dude, low blow hurts.
Yeah, this is the if you're unfamiliar, don't remember, this is where Lurking Arm deals 125% more damage to enemy heroes that are below 50% health. And it persists for 1 second after it's canceled.
It's amazing. And then you stack with it Growing Infestation. Lurking Arm area expands, but cannot be channeled for longer than 4 seconds. But then it lasts an extra second. Then you combo It Hungers, so you get refreshes on it. And it's gonna, because it's big and it hurts. So the range is now huge at 30% longer. and it hurts everybody. Stukov heals nothing in this game, by the way, because he's always using his arm. So don't expect him to actually take care of anyone. But it is really aggressive, and it is super disruptive. And if we're entering a Zarya meta at all, he's slapping that down because Stukov's here to say no. And I think this was to seduce some people that way. It really hurts. I really was shocked. There's a number of times on auto attackers or whatever where I'll just stand and I'll be like, yeah, fine. Whatever, Stukov.
Well, and if this holds too, like, I think it's effective because it's likely it'll be more the kind of average at home player that's going to be going for low blow, and the competitive players are going to keep doing what the competitive players are doing. Pardon my garbled mouth just now.
Level 16 Universal Carrier Healing Pathogen Healing Reduction decreased from 40 to 25. And Super Strain had its healing increase. This is whenever you're stunned or rooted, you get a heal. Which is really interesting. Because you'll look at this and you'll be like, oh, okay. What did I miss? Well, you did miss. It's the Universal Carrier problem. So Healing Pathogen continually spreads through Stukov, but its healing is reduced.
Yes.
Pardon me. I went in the wrong direction there. It's the Pox Populi problem.
There you go.
Pox Populi, Biokill Switch no longer removes Healing Pathogen, but instead sets its duration to 3 seconds. So when you would get a Reactive Ballistospore reset, you could do a double heal by going heal Reactive Ballistospore and then healing again because you didn't pop the pustules, if you catch my meaning.
Right.
Because they lingered around. So the Reactive Ballistospore build is still intact. They're just trying to stop you from going the full build. They've got to keep going after Reactive Ballistospore unless they just destroy it. And nothing's going to change with Stukov here. However, if you're not playing that very high-end build, there's some really fun toys for you.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Though, I still feel like I'm missing whatever the hell was going on with Universal Carrier. Why did they reduce its healing?
No. So Universal Carrier Healing Pathogen can continually spread through Stukov, but its healing was reduced. So you would take a bad side in order to constantly be boogering.
Gotcha.
So now
why I'm confused is like no one was taking this.
Well, now it's better.
Oh, I'm reading it wrong. Okay.
Yeah. It's very easy to read wrong. The healing went down because the benefit was that you healed continually.
Okay. Gotcha. Makes sense.
So now it's less detrimental to do this build, but in the face of, things like Pox Populi and the whole build centered around it for double heals, it's not going to have much impact.
Well, before the patch, Stukov was what I would consider middle of the road for the good heroes. Sitting at like a solid 52% win rate. Kind of middle of the plus 50% heroes. Last 3 days, down quite a bit, dipping below that 50% win rate, but also not the most popular hero in the world, so lower game numbers to take a look at right now.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. You want to get controversial?
Okay.
Do you want this week's Heroes Controversy?
Oh.
Maiev.
Yes.
Maiev is causing a stir in the Nexus. I would also file this under a light rework and underpick talent refresh, because on her base kit, we got Vault of the Wardens got an additional functionality where after reaching level 20, you just get an additional charge. Here you go. Welcome to 20. Here's an additional charge of your vault.
I think that's great.
I do too. I think it's really cool.
Her 20s are a bummer.
Does it? Okay. Is this exciting? Is it broken, Kyle?
I would say it's exciting and it's not broken, again, because her level 20 talents are the Shadow Orb businesses that have requirements for you to actually use them again in the first place.
Guess who's back in the chat room this week, Kyle?
Wait.
Where are my Genji buffs is back.
What did we do?
And where are my Genji buffs has opinions.
It's a great time to bring this up. But honestly, go read Maiev's level 20s to yourself. This is not the biggest power spike in the world. They're really cool ideas. You have Shadow Orb Vengeance, the whole Shadow Orb thing, super cute. Warcraft 3, love it, naturally. Activate to reset the cooldown of Spirit of Vengeance, but it only recharges if you hit people with Spirit of Vengeance 5 times. Huntress, activate to gain movement speed and attack speed 40%. Dealing physical damage to enemy heroes 10 times reactivates this. And then Shadow Strike, activate to deal damage to enemy heroes, slowing them by 30% and reducing their armor. You have to deal spell damage 10 times. It's not the end of the world. If you're a good Maiev player, you're going to get these things. They're going to happen. You'll get a refresh. But the idea that your 20s are somehow requiring any sort of execution on you is crazy. So getting Vault of the Warden just baked in as a bonus extra stack, fabulous. I love it.
I like it. I like it quite a bit. But it's not just our chat room of Genji fans that have been riled up. It's a lot of Genji fans that have been riled up because this also elicited a post on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit basically saying, well, why is it that Maiev can get some love, but Genji cannot? And kind of talking about past developer points for knocking Genji down a peg after another peg after another peg, in short, because he's powerful in the right hands. So it just kind of stinks when he's really, really bad in the wrong hands, but so be it.
Right. So here's Maiev getting a buff and new toys because she's in that exact situation. Powerful in the right hands, horrible in the wrong. And Genji said, well, you can't have new toys because you're powerful in the right hands. And it's a fair point.
Yeah. Which also elicited a co-fault response. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's actually quite lengthy. There's a lot of interesting information in here. So we have a link to this thread if you haven't already seen it on the subreddit. So head on over to the episode 393 show notes and take a look for yourself. But some of the highlights from here is that co-fault wanted to point out that most of the changes to Maiev were not focused on increasing Maiev's overall strength. And then went on to say that at higher skill levels of play, buffs to weak talents often have a minor impact on a hero's overall strength, which makes sense. We mention a lot, like just the concept of underpicked talent buffs. I would straight up just call it a genre of changes of patch changes because it's so common in Heroes of the Storm. But then Kofal gets into the baseline functionality change and says, quote, simply because her 20 talents are weaker than her fellow melee assassins, and it's visible when comparing level 20 talent win rates.
They also go on to say that Genji has a very, very powerful base kit in comparison, leaving him with many talents that aren't super strong or exciting. They do think, however, that there is room for changes to make his talents more exciting and impactful. So to do word math here, because his talents can't be exciting or strong, but we cancel that out because we're going to make them more exciting and more impactful. So you can't have exciting. Cross both out, line, cross. They can't be strong, but they're going to be impactful. What does that mean? They'll have more words on them is what I think.
Yeah.
But so my primary counterpoint to this, why can't Genji have cake too, is that Genji's counterplay is the counterplay for everybody, stun him. But what he so often does, going anywhere he wants, jumping over walls and getting shields maybe even, and then getting away, is not necessarily interactive. So he walks this real tightrope. Whereas Maiev has to go in on a telegraphed shooty shoot ghost, which looks awesome. Just a beautiful incarnation. Then that ghost, which has a very predictable track, will sometimes possibly be replaced by Maiev in a very dangerous way, where she will have to use a button that isn't available while stunned to leap and dodge very skillfully. And then she has to use a crescent moon shape for no other reason but it's a crescent moon shape, and it looks great, but it's crazy, to hit heroes. And if she binds you, you can walk along with her, or she has to use additional spells to give you a jolt, like her Spirit of Vengeance, that causes her to not be by you in the first place, to actually deal damage after giving you a pull. there's a lot of skill there that I feel like has counterplay to it. And if you're aware of what Maiev does, you can prepare for it, even cancel it out. Genji jumping into your towers, taking minion shots and killing you isn't necessarily interactive. Except for you stun him, you could have stunned Maiev. So, again, math, cross stuns out because both cancel each other out here.
I would hazard a guess that that is also a thought on the developers' minds. But in regards to Kofalt's replies here, it was pretty far removed from the main reason these changes were made. Like, yes, the counterplay differences exist between Maiev and Genji, but it wasn't the primary motivator. But it's, I think, another worthy layer to all of this.
And ultimately, when you get to the underpicked talents here, they are underpicked. Pin down is competitively picked out, but it's just without this Vault of the Warden business, I don't think we'd be talking about Maiev much today. I do think Containment Disc getting a silence after 1.5 seconds is nice. That is spot on with exactly what you want it to do, because your main counter here is going to be someone with high mobility that you actually snagged, like Mephisto. And making sure he doesn't then get away at the end of it is a really big deal. So I think that's great. Still might be in my top, in my top list like we did last week, but it's still something. I think this is fabulous. I'm honestly surprised this invoked Genji rage, because it seems very unrelated. However, Genjis are hungry for something. I absolutely understand.
It makes me curious if there's a significant crossover in Genji and Maiev players. That's where my brain goes. I'm like, is there a Venn diagram, and is there a massive intersection between Maiev and Genji?
Maybe. I mean, when it comes to Braxis, you have the same power to go over walls and stuff like that, and she used to be used as a rotator there. Gone are those days.
Yeah, I mean, they're both these kind of trickery, skill-based survival heroes. It's just, I think Genji's survivability is a little more punishing, and as you pointed out, there's not as much counterplay. But if you're listening and you suddenly had the thought, hell yes, Genji and Maiev are my go-tos, let us know. I'm curious. It sure isn't mine.
I think it'd be really interesting. It is an Overwatch feature. It seems that talents are less powerful and the base kits are amazing, just like Zarya there we talked about earlier, Tracer a little bit too. Mm-hmm. I'd be really interested to see what a Genji overall rework would be. I think it would have to be a full power pie distributing, which is why they haven't done it.
Well, let's get in the range. We teased the Kael'thas changes. Let's actually talk about what exactly changed. According to the devs, it's been a hot minute. Well done. Since they showed their resident fire mage some love, so they're making some baseline changes to increase the survivability, as well as some tweaks to underperforming talents, and that's exactly what happened. Kael'thas's health is up just under 5% is what it shakes out to be. So I think a noteworthy health increase there. And in the dev comments, they didn't mention the fact that there was a baseline buff to Gravity Lapse. Gravity Lapse is having its cooldown reduced by 2 seconds from 14 down to 12. This has impacted the level 4, though, Energy Royal, which is the cooldown reduction for hitting enemy heroes with your Gravity Lapse. That lost a second off of its cooldown reduction, went from 9 to 8. But that's still a net positive. It's a net gain.
I love this.
I do too. I've been doing nothing but Energy Royal empowered Gravity Lapse Kael'thas since this happened. Haven't been winning a ton. But I do feel like I have been absolutely turning the front line off. Diablos ain't doing jack when I'm on Kael'thas.
I mean, I had a game last night on Tomb of the Spider Queen where the Diablo and I just mind linked across time and space, and he picked up things and I threw stuns behind him knowing he would pick them up, and it was just fabulous. We had such an amazing time. I think Kael'thas really benefits from this Gravity Lapse cooldown, and it means I get to go Netherwind, which I really do prefer. I totally understand the Energy Royal. The cooldown reduction business is amazing. You got stuff in your face. There's Sonya's, whatever. It's just fine. But Netherwind is increased range by 30%. Increases the missile speed because it gets to the end by the same time. It's just a great talent, and I'm really happy to be able to go it again.
I dig it. I can dig that. And you don't need to go mana tap.
The mana tap. You should go mana addict, and all your mana problems are solved because you're getting orbs, and your tank is helping you get orbs.
I would not mana tap that, I guess.
No. Phoenix, though, getting a nice little upgrade. Hey, bring it on. Like, Phoenix is just, it's good fun. It's loud. I like it. When I die, I cheer for it because it's still going.
Yeah, it needed it for sure. I still think you want to go Pyroblast in most cases.
The thing about Pyroblast is that it's interruptible, and people are going to get crazy on you, particularly those Lucios. Anybody who can give you a little boop is going to go ruining your Pyroblast. So in that way, Kael'thas is now open to more comps. Yeah. Just because Phoenix is a better option.
It feels like it's a better option, whereas before it felt like that option didn't really exist. So at least now you can take stock of the opposing team and them having tools like you just mentioned with Lucio and make an educated decision on which heroic you go with.
The damage though and the splash, like these are all minor. If they really, really want to get that pick rate up, they need to affect what it deals during its flight time. And right now we're dealing equal damage for those two. So right now we went from 78 to 84. So launch a Phoenix to an area, dealing 84 damage along the enemies to the way. Once it's there, 7 seconds, attacking enemies, splashing. That's all well and good. I think if we want to see that go up, the flight damage is really, really key. Because that's the part you control.
I always forget that it even does damage during flight.
Oh yeah, no, that's a big part of your combo is making sure that slides across people as it goes to its new place, to its new home, its happy home.
Hasn't been a hero I've been picking lately, let alone a heroic I've been picking lately. So, yeah. He was not doing well before, by the way. He was the 7th worst hero on HOTS logs, barely above Zagara post-Zagara nerfs, which rendered her utterly useless.
You might have something.
Maybe. It's subtle. It's something. But first we got to talk about Kel'Thuzad, the other KT. Okay. It's time for KT, the sequel, who's also just straight up getting buffed. Health is up 3%. Damage on Glacial Spike is up over 16% from 60 to 70. And some talent love.
All fine. I don't really necessarily want to live in this world where Kel'Thuzads exist, but I'm fine with this. I do agree that he could use some health and some damage.
I'm with you. I guess I just don't want to. If I agree with you, I'm basically saying, yeah, I don't think I want this hero in the game. Is how I feel.
Yeah,
but it's Kel'Thuzad is maddening when he's meta.
And he hasn't been around for a bit, so sure, bring him back, I guess. But yeah, I'm not I don't think they're bad changes at all.
No, but I also may be yelling back to the cold dark with you very soon. Nazeebo. We knew this was coming, right?
Nazeebo? Oh yeah. Get out of here, Nazeebo.
We knew this was happening. A buff to Toads. But also a nerf to Widowmaker.
Yeah, no one was going Toads. So overall, Toads is now better, but everyone was all into the spiders, crazy about the spiders. The slow is now down 5% from 30 to 25. Slow duration is down. It had to happen.
Everything's down on Widowmakers. Widowmakers just nipped across the board. Slow down, duration down, quest reward bonus damage down. Plague of Toads getting a base level buff. The damage over 6 seconds has been increased. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff here. You've been all about blood ritual. The bonus voodoo ritual stacks per takedown have been decreased from 5 to 3. That's massive. That's a huge nerf.
It was so good though. It was so amazing in quick match where you were going to be sometimes lane clearing, sometimes team fighting, getting to
the only time you actually might be playing Nazeebo.
Yeah. Getting to viral infection was way too easy with this talent. So yeah, right. Good call.
It was a little grody. A little grody. So, yeah, it's Toad buff. I haven't played any Nazeebo since the changes. Have you?
I played a little bit and I didn't go toads. I'm doing my old quick match build. So I don't go spider colony there either. The toad talents mean that he does have a place. Old Nazeebo's best place was toads because you dealt with like double bruiser really well and big front lines and pressured them out slightly. And then you could transform that victory into huge siege damage because all those bonus toads and your leapy toads business.
Last time I think of that being important was when we finally started accepting Volskaya into our lives.
Yeah, that one got weird too, because then the 4-man was doing the double rotate. There's not really a good double rotate map for Nazeebo anymore.
I hadn't thought about that. That is accurate. I think that's an accurate assessment.
You're never going to be like, Tomb of the Spider Queen, go everybody, get out of these. No, because you can't get the Gemblies that you're going to make in the first place. Blackheart's Bay, of course, isn't in a competitive rotation. No one's gonna let you do a double soak on Dragonshire. Like what's Tomb of the Towers of Doom? No, that's a bruiser heathen. You'll be having a horrible time there on Nazeebo.
Yeah, and reporting from the bottom's pretty quick too. So it's all kinds of scary things that could happen there. I think that's a major read. It's a good way to put it. So, toads are up, spiders down. We'll see where he lands.
Valla.
Yeah, multi-shot build, getting nerfed. Damage decrease, cooldown increase. Dev saying multi-shot is actually being slightly outperformed by Hungering Arrow builds, but we feel like it's still too powerful for how safe an option it is. That's a really unique declaration. We don't usually hear that one. We've heard them.
Yeah.
Typically, it's just because things are overperforming, or it's like a feel thing, like a counterplay concern. Those are the two things we hear the most. It's rare that they talk about, yeah, there's other better ways to play, but this is just so easy.
It is easy. It is very easy. And Krita Hunter also getting a buff in the face of this as well, which is kind of nice. Puncturing Arrow getting nerfed too. So just overall, your Vallas are going to have a little less throughput in their main builds, and I'm not a huge fan of auto attack Valla, as ridiculous as that is to say.
It's my favorite build to play, but it's not. It's the last one I would ever place a bet on.
Yeah, it's definitely full honesty, when I'm done with a game and I look at the talent builds and I see auto attack Valla, it's my number one place to be like, oh, I'm scot free. This was the problem.
I'm with you. That's the thing. Like, the fun way to play Valla is not the right way to play Valla 9 times out of 10. As far as
it
I'm
is
concerned.
fun.
It's so fun. Who doesn't want to just go ka-choo, ka-choo, ka-choo quickly?
Yeah.
I can't make that sound fast, so there you go. All right, let's wrap it up. Zagara. Health increased from 1,500 to 1,550. And level 20 Broodmother, additional functionality, gained 20% bonus attack speed.
All right. It's not bringing her back. I know that.
Yeah.
But Broodmother, every third basic attack launches a Baneling toward the target. Get attack speed. That's cute. It is a cute little bacon there that you're gonna add there. I think that Zagara auto attacking is just too dangerous, and we're just in a dangerous standstill meta at the moment. And I think that honestly, I think I'd love to see Zagara's 4s cleaned up to something that's a little more spellcastery. Honestly, forced auto attack level just doesn't really match how busy you are.
That's fair. It is weird, right? It's like, it is like 2 on the nose, but it almost feels like all 3 of those you should be able to get if you're going an auto attack build or something like that, right?
Do it. Do it. Yes.
Like why is level 4, no, you have to do something with your auto attack here, but I'm not going an auto attack build.
And what is exactly an auto attack build? Jagged Barbs, when on creep, gain 50% more attack damage and her range is increased. Do the Kael'thas thing.
That talent
Give us all 4.
That talent needs to be overhauled or removed.
All 4s. Give us the Kael'thas treatment. Yes.
Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't care for it. So let's see. Her health originally went down from 1575 to 1500, so this is almost back to where it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it did get safer to deliver auto attacks. And at 1575, it was feeling oppressive. But more of it came down to banelings, which are still nerfed to hell and back. So
exactly, it was the fact that you couldn't even interact with that health because there were so many banelings in your face.
I've taken her back in the quick match since this, and it has been successful. And it looks like the rest of us Zagara loyalists is the case because she is up at least in the last 3 days on HOTS logs. But as I've been saying all episode, it's too early to tell.
I do think that you should give her another look as a 4-man assassin. I don't think she belongs anywhere near the solo lane anymore just because her throughput can't pressure out bruisers or keep them off her. But she does.
I really think that's a shame, though, because I think that's her identity.
I agree. And I'd be curious if she could bring something more to the 4-man, like maybe creep that provided something to everybody. I don't know if that's the right call or not. But in an auto attack capacity, Zagara might have a place, and this might be 100% correct. Run her as an auto attacker, bring along a mage, and your spells do enough without being enhanced by talents. It sounds sacrilegious, but I think it could work. Treat her like Raynor, It's weird.
If auto attack is a little... Whoa, Jesus, my cat is knocking things over. If auto attack gets a little bit better... No, it doesn't really.
I know it's not thematic. It's not what you want, but like I honestly had a game this week where we ran an auto attack Zagara and I was Kael'thas and it felt like I had a Raynor. Like there was no problem. And when
what does that say about Raynor?
Well, something maybe. But when she brought Maw to that battle, it felt really good. And it felt really good alongside my Kael'thas. It was just a solid contribution of damage. And the fact that that wasn't overvalued in spells mean we weren't double spells in the first place. It just felt like good sustain. And it's not as sexy. It's not sexy.
My issue is with that feeling like the only way to go as opposed to an option. Zagara being a bad solo laner, I think, is just wrong. It just bums me out massively. This is also like my favorite hero, and I think she's kind of bad now. So
the weirdest part about
she was
Zagara,
bad for so long.
I think Jane is eating her lunch. I think there's a big lunch and Jane is eating in it. Yeah, it's just water elemental is what you want Hydra to be scary as. And then Frostlance, Ice Lance is a Baneling, and roaches from the space are Blizzard. Like Jaina does everything Zagara don't. It's so sad.
Jaina is a Zagara that can actually make informed skill-based decisions.
Yeah.
Baneling drop is too hard to hit and isn't rewarding enough when you land it versus Blizzard, which is a million times easier to hit and infinitely more rewarding when it lands. Yeah.
And you want that fantasy of like, I've summoned something you have to deal with now, but in a 4-man situation, the Hydra often dies to random team fight damage. Whereas in a 4-man situation with a water elemental, you're the healer and you're like, is someone please do something about this thing? It's been on me for days.
Yeah, one's a heroic though, and the other's a very short cooldown ability. But honestly, freaking water elemental is ready for every team fight.
Yeah, 100% serious, dude. We'll get in there this week. I'll play a mage. You play auto attack Zagara and like eject your fantasies. I think it's pretty good.
Oh, but I'm straight up. What's her face? Who's I mean, they were all bratty kids and Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, but I'm just like, it's not what I want. This isn't what I want.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, no one asked for this. No one playing Zagara asked for this anyway.
But she's available. Find new love.
There's lots of heroes that are available and are never picked for good reason.
It's true.
Yeah. So, anyways, that wraps up the patch. I actually think it's a pretty dope patch overall. Like we're by virtue of the order of the English alphabet, we ended on my favorite hero that I still think is bad and completely missing her core fantasy. Like the rest of this patch is pretty freaking rad.
I do think it's a really solid patch. I think it has obvious holes like the Junkrat and Dahaka, so I'm very curious to see what is to come. The toy is Maiev to me, and I will play with this toy a little bit. It's okay, but it won't be defining my season or the rest of.
I'm going to stick with Brightwing. I think all power to Tyrande for me is where I'm heading after this. Just I think she's the next one. She's the next one by virtue of not being messed with. I think it's going to be our next healer that's just going to come out swinging.
Bring it.
Oh, it's brought. It's brought like Malfurion yelling Tyrande.
And then taking an axe.
Could they change that since they're changing so many things in World of Warcraft? I like the changes. I didn't mean that to sound like such a takedown.
I don't think they're just going through and changing random crud because they feel like it.
It sucks so much, though.
We're like, man, the fight really sucked in Black Temple. Can we get rid of it too? You guys over there, you're changing things, right?
So people spamming the spit emote did suck. And you know what else sucks? Malfurion's voice acting.
All right.
It's bad.
All right.
All right, it's a long episode, but let's take at least one question before we wrap.
Darkness stopped calling.
Darkness just texted me.
It's not the moment, it's the hero brawler!
You can send your emails to itncast@gmail.com. If you're supporting us on Patreon, well, you've got access to the patron Discord. And last week, a really fun question came into our Discord from Mad Walrus. We just kind of ran out of time. But I didn't want to table it for another week. So we're going long, Mad Walrus, because your question is entertaining. Hi, guys. Love the show and everything you do. I have a random question for the show. Heroes has some awesome skins. Garrett and Kyle and Garrett. What are your top 3 favorite skins? Mad Walrus says that theirs are Johanna Orc skin, Sonya Black Tint Nexomania skin. It's like a black light tint.
Sure.
And Ariel's WoW Spirit Healer skin.
Oh, that was a good one.
These are some good choices, Mad Walrus. Johanna Orc skin is also definitely a top 3 for me.
Oh, nice.
I think that skin is incredible. It was just very, very well executed. And at the height of my World of Warcraft PvP play, which was never particularly hardcore, but towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King, I was on a 3-man arena team for almost a year, and I was playing a female orc warrior. And I just thought she looked awesome. I just thought it was I still think female orcs are like one of the most underrated character models in World of Warcraft, especially with a shaved head. They look like terrifying gargoyles that would just rip you in half.
Okay, I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a weird soft spot for the female orc model. Like I saw it so seldomly back then, and then when I was like playing around, I was like, what do I want? And I like made this, just was kind of randomly choosing from orc or horde combinations of it. Like, damn, that warrior looks dope. And so when Johanna, who like I've gotten so bored with her over the years, but Johanna has been like a staple of my heroes play for so long. So like when one of my go-to heroes got an orc skin, I was just like, yes, I love it. Absolutely love that skin.
Well, you got 2 left, or are we trading off one at a time here?
I mean, you can go for it if you want.
Okay, well, I gotta go with tradition then. The skin that made him playable, Tychus Infested.
That made him play. This was, I think, historically the first instance of me realizing how important it is for you to play as a monster.
Yeah.
And this goes all the way back to like the first year of Into the Nexus. And we've been doing this since 2013. No, 2013 was the Hearthstone beta. 2014 was the Tech Alpha for Heroes of the Storm. So yeah.
Game changer.
Long time. Yeah, the Infested Tychus skin is really good. It's really, really good. Any of the Death Knight Sonyas are my next one, but I am more fond of the helmetless variety because you get to see her dope ass like goth makeup.
Okay, nice.
Like
Good pick.
I'm very, very Warcraft skin biased, but the Kel'Thuzad event, I have all of those skins. I think, short of like a few of the extra tints that they put out for him, like later on. But I love those.
I gotta go.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna go on to my number 2 if you got more on Sonya. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, it's hard to argue with Dreadlord Jaina, which is being brought up in the chat room, but just getting to be a Death Knight on one of my all-time favorite heroes, it's just like, it's all I ever really wanted.
Yeah, and Jaina's already kind of cool, is the thing. And that skin is cool. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't going from like criminal in a spacesuit Tychus to actually a monster. And that's why my number 2 will be the necrotopologist May. The Death Knight May skin is number 2 for me.
Ooh, that is one that makes her playable for me.
Makes her playable. She literally would not exist on my roster. She is goofy, and I don't want her. But I would love a voice effect, please. Just like go full blown. Just make it all the way. But yeah, it's a good one.
I think I have to give last place, or not last place, but like my last spot to SCV Gazlowe.
Okay, that's a good one.
I don't think I can, in good conscience, make my top 3 skins all Warcraft skins. I love StarCraft so much, and I really feel like it has become like just the absolute like, oh, we sent it to a farm of Blizzard IPs.
Yeah, it's happy out there,
I truly fear we'll never see another StarCraft anything.
It's getting weird, yes, because remember when StarCraft came out, StarCraft 2 got announced? It's like, hell, it's been so long, and we're like, I remember that game from my childhood. It's been about that long now.
Yes.
It's actually going to soon be longer than when we said, hell, it's about time.
Yes.
It's past hell time.
Yes.
It's getting weird.
I love it. It's one of my all-time favorite fictional universes. And SCV Gazlowe is such an excruciatingly deep cut. I love it. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. It kind of encompasses everything I love about Heroes of the Storm.
I want to make sure that we have an honorable mention. That's not a great skin, not our favorite skin, but something we think is great. So let's do that as well, following these number 3s.
Oh, okay.
Because my number 3 is Gold Boy Leoric.
Gold Boy?
Oh yeah, the immortal space lord Leoric, where he's entirely gold with the purple beams and the purple tubing. He's magnificent. My golden treasure goblin is gone now, but I'm riding on the golden rooster, the golden lunar rooster, and I just feel glorious. And with the voice effect as well, to be that old cartoony style, fabulous.
I feel like that's a nice personal pick that I wouldn't have assumed for you.
And yeah, that one means a lot to me. I see it. I remember I purchased it with the real bucks from my pocket. And I always enjoy bringing out the golden boy.
So what's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention goes to Artanis, and I want to get the name of this right. It goes to his Dalium? It's some it's a fantasy word. Delam. Delam Artanis is my honorable mention.
What skin is this?
This is the one that came out right before Legacy of the Void that had spoilers attached to it, where he's wearing Zeratul armband.
Oh, snap.
And he's covered in Zerg blood. It's simple. It's quiet. And from above, you do not notice it, but it is such a badass skin. His hair is cut. He's just covered in gore. For Heroes of the Storm, anyway. And it's just a great skin.
Boy, I forgot entirely about that, but you're right, because it was around the same time as Legacy, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. No, the skin dropped in Heroes because you bought Legacy, I believe, or maybe it came out the same time. Either way, you probably weren't done with Legacy of the Void by the time you saw a skin of Artanis here missing his hair. And you would go, wait, what? Why has he got a haircut? And why has he got Zeratil's band on? That's kind of strange.
Fair. That's cool. Mine would then be, I got to give it up for another StarCraft skin that I absolutely love, which is the Ultralisk Anubarak skin. That is one that I went out of my way and bought with my own money. Because I liked it so much.
Bugtown. What do they call it? They call it Venomous. Well, this is Venomous Enraged.
I believe there's a Tarrasque one, isn't there?
A Nubalisk. That's what it's called.
A Nubalisk. There you go.
Yeah.
It depends on what tint you're looking at.
Yeah.
That is, I don't think I've stopped using that skin since I bought it.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. It's real good. It's really, really good. But Mad
I
Walrus.
use the Venom variety.
Oh, okay. Mad Walrus, that was a really fun question. So thank you for asking it. And yeah, we had some long episodes recently, but don't worry. We will get back to your questions. We are not throwing any out. We will get to them. Keep them coming. itncast@gmail.com or hit us up in the ITN Discord. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. We're going to see you all tonight if you're listening live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time over at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson for our monthly patron game night, our patron bonanza, as we like to call it, which you can watch. And if you are a patron, you can join. And if you're not a patron, hang around because sometimes people have internet issues or something comes up and we need to fill. So come hang out. It's a good time. Speaking of our patrons, I want to thank you again for your great support. If you like what we're doing here at Into the Nexus and you want to support us because Kyle and I create content for a living, and this is exactly how we pay our bills, check out patreon.com/ITN. We've been on a bit of a backslide recently as Heroes has been a little quieter, and it as evident by the new patrons this week. Some of you decided now was the time to sign up, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much. Check it out, patreon.com/ITN. And a huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Chris K., Sean B., and Mike R. If you want to catch us live, we go live on twitch.tv/AMoveTV around 3 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday. And you can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. But before you go, you should know that Kyle and I do another podcast together. And it's also on YouTube with a lot of visual aids and more editing than you might be used to from us. It is called Nexus Gaming News. And this week, Kyle, we talked about New World.
The New World.
Yes. New World. The new Amazon Studios game. And talked about kind of how it stacks up. I kind of came to it from the perspective of a World of Warcraft player, and you came to it as a new Final Fantasy player.
It's true.
And we kind of looked at what it has to offer through those lenses. And you can find that either at nexusgamingnews.com, wherever you get your podcast. Just search for Nexus Gaming News or go to youtube.com/AMoveTV because that's where the video version is hosted. I've been very proud of the video version, so I would appreciate it if you went and gave it a look, gave that channel a subscribe, and checked it out. But
yeah, we are but humble voice podcasters entering in the world of visual medium, and we love all of you here who join us for the live show, but many of you may have not seen our faces or are aware that we produce such video content, so please check out the YouTube.
I think we look all right for mid-30-year-old nerds.
I'd say we're doing okay. Yeah, we're fine.
I've looked worse. I have definitely looked worse.
I agree for myself. I will not comment for you, but I agree for myself.
Where can folks find you otherwise, Kyle?
You can find everything I do over at Kyle Fergusson, 2 S's in Fergusson.com, KyleFergusson.com. And there is a new episode up of DMGI, the DM Gives Inspiration show, talking about player weapons in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, so you can give your players good loot. And you should also check out my Pokemon Unite show, AO's Clubhouse, which can also be found over at KyleFergusson.com. That mobile upgrade was incredible. I'm really, really enjoying that game. I'm playing a lot of Cramorant. Join Kai Berries, Mockery, and myself over at AO's Clubhouse.
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter, 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. And I recently overhauled my portfolio website. You may not know, but I have been a freelance graphic designer since like 2010. Been a long time. I have since added videography and video editing to my bag of tricks. And I went ahead and just rebranded my website. It is now createwithgarrett.com. So if you want to hire me to do something, to make something for you, you can go to createwithgarrett.com. There's a contact form on there. You can see examples of my work, both video and design. And that contact form goes right to my phone. I will see it. So go check it out. Createwithgarrett.com. That's what I'm going to promote this week.
Great name.
Thanks. This podcast and every single other one that I produce is at amove.tv. That's going to wrap it up. Kyle and I will see you Tuesday for the next Nexus Gaming News, and we'll see you next Thursday for the next one of these. So thanks so much for listening, everybody. And until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.